Hmm. All right. Guys, I think I'm probably going to go with something like this for my check. Do you guys hear me? Yeah. So I'm probably going to go with this for my Santa filter. But I need to show you guys something that I found when I was preparing for this stream. It's probably the single most cursed thing I've ever seen. Behold.
Hello there.
Oh, hey, emotional entropy. Oh, a little quiet. Hold on a minute. Let me just put that up, turn this up a little bit. Hello, everybody. Good God, this is like okay. So on the one hand, it is a minion. On the other hand, it's also like a really cursed minion. Like, look what happens if I turn my head even a little bit to the side, and then if I turn it far enough, it turns into a fucking abomination, you know, from God. Kind of like this. I might stick with this one, or maybe I'll go back to this one, which is not bad. VTuber debut. If I actually did, that would be horrible. Actually, ho ho ho. This one's not so bad. Maybe I'll stick with this one. All right. So there is a little bit of a sword of Damocles that has been hanging over the stream since the beginning. Um, and I don't know if you'd call it a sword of Damocles, but well, let's call it the 800-pound gorilla in the room. There's an entire SCP like creator community out there that does a lot of content on Twitch and YouTube, shit like that, which I have not interacted with all that much. About the only interactions I've really had with them are a certain TikToker, Desk of Autoclef, whom I've gotten to know. He's a pretty cool guy. Back in the day when it was mostly just still frames over, voiceovers, uh, me and Volgan did a few things. He did a few of my pieces and such like that. Um, but here is the thing. Oh yeah, I mean emotion. There are a lot of other TikToks, TikTokers, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, uh, emotional entropy. Yeah, like you, who do a lot of really cool SCP stuff out there. And among all of them, there is one particular channel that has become kind of infamous. Um, SCP Explained Story and Animation. Okay, I'm gonna start by beginning. Let me just zoom in a little bit with the oldest thumbnails on this channel. Okay, SCP-173, the sculpture. Okay, it looks like they're doing an animation over, talking about SCP-173. There we go. Moving on, 106, 049, SCP-5000, SCP-087. Yeah, this is looking pretty interesting. We're going on 1000, 066, 053, 999. There are almost 7,000 SCP articles. It feels like they could really just go a very long way by just making videos about, the various articles. And then, let's talk a little bit about the world building. Chaos Insurgency explained. Why not? Um, SCP-187, 343, SCP-610, the Flesh That Hates, 001, the Scarlet King, all of this stuff. The Global Occult Coalition explained. Yeah, let's go. Who is Dr. Bright? Let's move on. Let's go on. SCP-2273, 001 Atonement, the Church of the Broken God, Un-London. How to work at the SCP Foundation explained. Okay, that's a little weird, but okay. 974, 823, Carnival of Horrors. Actually, I'm actually a little bit fond of that one. Let's see. The Deadliest Game 9058, classic. Triple O, the Lost SCP, iPods 131, very cute, very classic. Da, 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 Miss 3280, 3004, 001, When Day Breaks. We continue to move on, the What is an Elite Mobile Task Force, all the Little Miss. Uh, yeah, okay, getting a little boobalicious there, but whatever. It's not so bad. What 1386? 106 Herman Fuller's. Oh, 001, the Gate Guardian. Yeah, I the hand-drawn Cassie. 008, 084. The baby. Okay. Brain virus. 136 Naked Doll. Top 15 most dangerous SCP monsters in containment. How did you spend 3 hours talking about that? I don't know. Unless you're just taking your old videos and continuing to go. The Ouroboros cycle, moving on, moving on. About a year ago, okay, kind of weirdly boobalicious, but that's not too bad. 12 rusty keys and a door, yeah. 500 Panacea, yeah, there we go. The Black Knight. 5 hours of 25 most. Okay, that's getting a little horny there. FCP 6000, but you know what? It's not so bad. It's not so bad. Forbidden Weapon 2700 Teleforce. Okay, moving on. Top 20, the most wholesome SCPs. Oh, that's cute. 2118, the Lost Child. There we go. Zeros, the Mellified Man. 811, the Swamp Woman. Oh, a friend of mine wrote that one. That was a good one. 87, The Secret at the Bottom of the... yeah, there we go. Moving on, the most epic SCP stories. 212, The Improver. 137, and we move on, and we continue, and we continue, and we continue. The Way the World Ends. Multiversal Strip Club. There we go, there we go, there we go. SCP-682 versus Lord Blackwood, the Thrilling Hunt. Craziest Mutations and Adaptations? Okay, getting a little bit weird there. 096. Okay, the titles are getting kind of clickbaity, but it's not so bad, Silent Lamentations of a Clockwork Goddess. And then we move on. And we move on. When Day Breaks. SCP Movie U Control. Are we cool yet? Explained. The Fascist Council of the Occult Virus. This is worse than... what is the Red Right Hand? Normal human people. Kane Pathos Kroll explained. He is actually a dog. Crow is not a Crow is not a humanoid dog. Crow's character is a dog. Did you know Bright is not allowed to do these 29 things? They're kind of a little low effort there. Would you sign this Cursed Movies Amazon wish list? Oh, 2085. Yeah, there we go. When Day Breaks, Hour by Hour. Can you actually survive without water? Is 572 the... I have a lot of fondness for this one. Okay, and now about SC... 2 months ago, this channel just went off the rails. It starts off with 682 slaughters through the backrooms. What if 1471 was put inside 914? What if 2006 annoyed Pennywise? Can Dr. Bright defeat billionaire Jeff Bezos? What if 991 were 035? I get that. 173 versus 035. Okay, what if 2800 Cactus Man was put inside 914? Okay, the Plague Doctor. Could Dr. Gears escape the Upside Down from Stranger Things? What? Okay, could Homelander's ego crush the SCP Foundation? SCP-096, handsome shy guy. Okay, I gotta zoom in on this one. This just.
The holidays at
Oh no,
Universal
no,
are
I
the
didn't mean to
best.
click it. Did not mean to click it. SCP-076 versus the Predator. 049, which SCP presidential election? What if the flesh that hates was put inside 914? Your new pet. What if Doctor Strange fought the Scarlet King? 682 fights Death Moths. 682 versus Bananazilla. Venom versus the SCP Foundation. Dr. Bright versus the Joker? 173 surprises 3008 subscribers. Dr. Bright versus Rick Sanchez. 343 versus Bill Cipher. Markiplier versus the deadliest SCPs. Dr. Bright's Fight Club 682 versus Nukes. 3008 handsome shy guy. This thumbnail is just I don't know. Um Emotional Entropy says they can give some insight on the channel. Um Now I'm going to say one thing about this, okay? This channel's been getting a lot of hate. But I'm going to say this much about it. At the very least, they're not just reading the articles on the website and animating over it. On the one hand, this is all clickbait. But on the other hand, it's also fan fiction. And I feel like I can't ridicule this. I can't hate on this without actually watching some of it. So here's the thing. Um, let's remember that what we're about to see is work that somebody has done um, and put out there, and it has 195,000 views. With that in mind, let's give this a fair shot. SCP Explained, A Day in the Life of Alto Clef.
A man of many names and just as many faces, with one characteristic, unsettlingly wide smile. Dr. Altoclef has been one of the SCP Foundation's most valuable researchers. Granted, he also happens to be their most infamous and would almost take the title of their strangest member of personnel. In fact, Clef might
I'd like to point out that according to various canons, SCP Foundation has on its staff a literal dog, a photosynthetic plant person, and both the king of the butterflies and the lady who made, transdimensional butterflies. But please, of course, let's claim that they're the strangest.
be tied for the title of strangest with one other researcher who was literally turned into a dog. But what does an average day look like for the so-called ukulele man? Sure, somebody of Clef's reputation as a violent, unpredictable, and enigmatic figure doesn't just punch the clock at the Foundation and settle for a boring day filing paperwork. Well, if you've ever wondered what his normal schedule...
Okay, here it is. I need to point something out. It is not the phrase is
Well, if you've ever wondered what is filing paperwork, well, just punch the clock at the Foundation and
hang on.
cinematic figure doesn't just...
They said violent, unpredictable, and enigmatic. Okay. Oh, I can? Sweet. I did not know that actually. Um the phrase is genre savvy and enigmatic. And I'll explain where that phrase comes from some other time.
A violent, unpredictable, and enigmatic figure doesn't just punch the clock at the Foundation and settle for a boring day filing paperwork. Well, if you've ever wondered what his normal schedule might look like, then luckily we've prepared a look at a day in the life of Dr. Altoclef. 6 a.m. Rising at an hour most ordinary people would consider absurdly early, Altoclef seemingly begins his day much like the rest of us. He sits up in bed, gets to his feet, and washes himself thoroughly to prepare for the day ahead. In order to make the most effective use of this time in the morning, despite being up at the break of dawn, Clef likes to complete smaller, trivial tasks in regards to his personal health hygiene. Although it does little to change the unsettling aura that follows him around, never let it be said that Dr. Clef doesn't take meticulous care of himself, perhaps even to a neurotic degree.
I disagree. Uh, I believe that Clef is the type of person who, if he is not reminded to do so, will not take a shower for an entire month, and will simply just toss on another layer of cologne. Um, but let's move on.
He'll begin with exercise, usually trying to break his record for number of pull-ups and push-ups he can complete in a short amount of time. If he finds his face is a little puffy first thing in the morning, he'll instead don an ice pack while doing stomach crunches. His record for those, 1,000 in a row, and counting. Clef
Okay,
will then
I
follow
see
this
where
up
this
with
is going.
showering, using this time under the water to meditate. It seems odd for someone known for his various acts of great violence, but even Altoclef can take a moment for calm, reflective meditation.
This is true, and this is also entirely a reference to what's his name from American Psycho, and for that I approve.
Then, while showering, he moves on to the application of a deep pore cleansing lotion, and is particularly fond of his honey almond body scrub. Then,
Please, Patrick Bateman, Clef, please. Um, I would normally agree with that, except that the other week I was in the store and found out there's a company out there that makes bourbon scented body wash. That's all I'm gonna say.
exiting and applying an herb mint face mask, which he leaves on for 10 minutes as part of his routine, Dr. Clef engages in his strangest morning activity. While standing in front of the mirror in his private quarters, he will just stare at himself. It's certainly an odd action, especially spending such a specific allotment of time doing so. But even more unusual is how he seems to practice smiling. Whenever photographed, Dr. Altoclef's face is always bizarrely replaced with that of a random animal or object.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Gifting is complicated.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I forgot that when I'm on this mode, it doesn't. And there's Neiman Marcus showing off a bunch of tits and ladies in underwear. I'm using the private browsing tab, but when I do that, it turns off my freaking ad blocker. Hang on, let me turn it back on. Oh, for fuck's sake, come on. And now they're advertising cheese fries. Alright, returning. I will give you an answer to this, and this is my canon. Feel free to take it or leave it. Audio's low on the video. Okay, hang on.
Purpose or
Try it
can't
again.
help it. 8 a.m. Breakfast is usually a meal Clef skips. Instead of cereal or
Is
even
that
a
better?
healthy piece of fruit.
Okay, I accidentally clicked on something that muted the audio. Okay. Let me actually give a little answer to concealment of photography. This is my personal canon. It doesn't need to be accepted. My belief is that it is a global occult coalition magical working. It's an identity protection working. And the other part of my headcanon is that he is not the only one with this effect. He is just the only one who chose to make it so blatant.
It's still unknown whether the concealment of his face to photography is an active or passive ability Dr. Clef possesses, whether he does it on purpose or can't help it. 8 a.m. Breakfast is usually a meal Clef skips. Instead of cereal or even a healthy piece of fruit, every morning he'll sustain himself on more vitamins than any normal human being would take in a week. We do not recommend trying this at home. Being awake so early affords Dr. Clef the luxury of a few moments downtime before the beginning of a long working day at the SCP Foundation. Part of Altoclef's infamous reputation is he is known to be something of a weapons enthusiast, and often acts as a go-to executioner when the Foundation needs an anomaly taken care of. As a result, and as it pertains to his job, during Clef's morning downtime, he familiarizes himself with one of his favorite armament publications, Guns, Guns, and Oh Look, More Guns. Although how he acquires these magazines and indeed who actually publishes them is unknown.
Okay, I will add that to the canon, and I think I know who publishes that. But I'm not going to say who. I've gotten my idea, had the idea for the organization that publishes that. I just haven't come up with a name for them.
Alternatively, he will request SCP archive files to be delivered to his quarters, so he can read up on any anomalies the Foundation has encountered that might have the potential to be weaponized. Of course, this is more just a hobby, not something Clef would actually attempt, unless asked to. But speaking of having things delivered to his room, it is normally around this time of the morning that a frightened
He writes
member of
them himself.
D-Class is sent to knock on Dr. Clef's door.
Yes.
Now this too seems rather odd. The role of D-Class is to be expendable, usually as human test subjects for anomalies, placed in dangerous situations so as not to cost the lives of Foundation personnel. Then, of course, knocking on the door to Altoclef's quarters is potentially a rather dangerous situation. It's hard to know for certain if the D-Class sent to hand-deliver Dr. Clef's daily itinerary will survive the encounter. Given his renowned unpredictability, it usually ends up being a 50-50 coin toss.
I would say it's more like a 1 in 20. Literally, Aw, sorry, you rolled a 1.
Of course, it does beg the question, why doesn't the Foundation just send Clef an email to notify him what anomaly he'll be decommissioning? But then again, being handed a paper itinerary by a D-Class was something that Clef himself requested. 10 a.m. By late
Yeah.
morning, Alto has normally finished cleaning up what was left of his ill-fated D-Class messenger, unless he was in the mood to spare them. Sure, killing them certainly seemed an excessive practice to engage in, but Clef had seemingly convinced the Foundation that it was necessary for him to function. It is
This is slander, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
obvious that this diabolical doctor is well aware of his usefulness to the Foundation. He has
Yeah.
long proven himself to
Yeah.
be highly proficient at dispatching dangerous anomalies with ease, so it's likely the Foundation fulfills his bloodthirsty requests thanks to that factor. After all, they would hardly be likely to offer up a sacrificial lamb, even a member of D-Class, to anyone else. Well, save for Dr. Bright's new body quota. But Dr. Clef has always been capable of producing results that align with
Okay. 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 That's pretty good.
the Foundation's objectives, no matter the cost incurred. Clef has been known to deem any losses, even the deaths of civilians, to be acceptable collateral damage in order to kill or contain anomalies, and he's under no illusions that the Foundation would
I'm gonna call that another piece of slander.
indulge his erratic behavior if not for his track record. However, not one in the Foundation knew for certain if Dr. Clef even needed to start his day with such gratuitous violence. As well as being renowned as a killer, Clef was also a prolific liar. Were there legitimate
True.
reasons for him starting his day like this? Or was it all just a front, merely done so he could continue to promote his self-image as the Foundation's most ruthless researcher? The lack of a clear answer was widely considered to be frustrating to other members of Foundation personnel. 12 p.m. Noon, and after a few hours of tending to his duties as the department head for the Division of Training and Development,
Yes.
Clef usually takes a prompt lunch break. Every day,
Let's
as the
fix
clock
that.
strikes exactly midday, on the precise hour of 12 o'clock, Dr. Alto Clef will stride into the mess hall.
Mhm.
There, a number of Foundation researchers will normally be gathered, eating lunch and quietly conversing amongst themselves. Popular lunchtime topics of conversation usually tend to revolve around ways the Foundation could try to eliminate SCP-682, or which type of pie is being served in the commissary. On this particular day, it's apple pecan, in case you were wondering. Naturally, as with many things that Dr. Clef does, his reasons for taking a trip into the mess hall aren't all the same as any normal person's. That is to say, he doesn't go there to eat, or at least in the conventional sense.
What?
Alto Clef does every lunchtime without fail is deliberately and methodically pace his way around the mess hall. In his hands is his ukulele, the instrument from which his various monikers have been derived. Ukulele Man, Agent Ukulele, even Alto Clef is a nickname. The doctor has always claimed his real name is an A major chord played on a ukulele, making it unpronounceable to humans.
Thank
With
you.
his preferred instrument in hand, Clef will plod between the tables that eating researchers are sitting at. Each step he takes is punctuated by the strum of a note on his ukulele, as he'll play a random song painfully slowly as he strides around. One lunchtime, it took him an entire 2 hours to get through a rendition of Smoke on the Water.
Note by agonizing note. Alright. I'm gonna say this much. I buy that one. I like that little bit of headcanon. But God, this thing's got a bunch of ads. I will say one other thing. I don't think he does that every day. I think he just finds a day when he feels like, pissing people off and goes around and does that. Your day in the life of Alto Clef. Oh, for fuck's sake. Alright, let's resume.
An entire 2 hours
Yeah, I'm
to
on
get through
Firefox.
a rendition of Smoke on the Water, note by agonizing note. Even though it doesn't seem to be a meal in the traditional sense, meaning it offers him no nutritional value, Clef professes that his midday ritual allows him to feed on the fear of his fellow researchers.
Fear and
Seeing him
annoyance.
creepily
Fear
walk
and
around
annoyance.
playing slow, drawn-out renditions of songs on his ukulele is occasionally something that intimidates the newer personnel at the Foundation. But anyone who has been there for long enough just finds it annoying,
Hydrate
which
yourself,
might be Clef's
asshole.
intention, that or simply fueling his own ego.
Thank you.
1:30 p.m. Usually by the time an hour and a half have elapsed from the start of his lunch break, Alto Clef will reluctantly return to his work. He'll often proceed over the course of a mid-afternoon to conduct research into the latest reality warping anomaly he has been tasked with decommissioning for that day. It was during one such time of day that he came upon with his plan for the now infamous SCP-239 incident.
Oh god, they're gonna
An
bring
anomalous
that
girl was
story up.
recovered by the Foundation, with the ability to
Okay.
alter reality specifically relating to her or her immediate surroundings. Dr. Clef viewed SCP-239 as a threat to security, and that the Foundation repeatedly overestimated its ability to contain reality-altering entities. So Clef proposed a plan involving a sharp implement made out of SCP-148, a metal that could block certain anomalous properties.
First of all,
Clef
that
even
wasn't
volunteers
a
himself to
regular
terminate
sword.
SCP-239
It wasn't a
personally,
knife.
and
It
would
was
have
a sword.
succeeded had the Foundation not
And Clef and
intervened.
Kondraki
Most of the plans Dr. Alto Clef
had
devised
a
usually
sword
placed
fight
emphasis
set
on
to
eliminating
Princes of the
anomalies
Universe
instead of containing them
from,
and making them safe. Additionally, his schemes almost always end in a large number of deaths,
what's it called?
either of disposable D-class personnel or of civilians.
Okay, that's also slander. I don't think that any of Clef's actual in-canon decommissions have actually resulted in the deaths of any bystanders aside from the 239 incident, and most of the people who died there were, I believe, SCPs. I don't know, maybe Kondraki killed some people in that story. He did ride... No, that was Duke Till Dawn, where he rode 682 around like a bronco. Whatever.
On this particular day, Dr. Clef had been tasked with an assignment he found
thank
to
you,
be
Skies.
particularly egregious, curing something, namely SCP-451, a former Foundation agent who suffered an accident with an anomalous artifact that made him unable to perceive other people around him. The agent quickly came to the conclusion that he was the last surviving person on the planet, and that he was responsible for wiping out the human race. Naturally, Clef's proposed solution to the problem was to simply kill SCP-451.
I mean,
he could still be seen by other Foundation staff, but nobody could interact with him directly. It was as though the artifact had caused a reality warping event focused solely on that one agent, shifting him just outside of reality itself. However, after spending hours brainstorming a way to decommission SCP-451, another researcher reminded Dr. Clef that the agent could no longer be killed. As a result, in a fit of madness, Clef instead killed that researcher, before continuing as if he had been unfazed by that information. 4 p.m. Despite normally...
That's definitely slander. Clef would not kill anyone for saying or doing something like that. He would simply stare at them and intimidate them to the point where they walked away on their own. You know. Dr. Clef's body count is exaggerated.
having done
I'm gonna say
barely
that.
enough work to justify it. At this point in his day, Clef often likes to treat himself to an additional unearned break. As with much of his regular flouting of rules, he often rationalizes the extra time off with the knowledge that he is apparently untouchable. Clef knows there is very little the Foundation can do to reprimand him, given both his status as a high-value researcher and his historical track record for dealing with anomalies. Simultaneously, he liked to exercise his immunity to both consequences and the effects of certain anomalies. Part of what makes Clef such a valuable asset to the SCP Foundation is not just his extensive knowledge of reality warpers, although he is considered perhaps the leading expert in such SCPs, but Alto has also been known to negate the anomalous abilities of some SCPs, rendering him unaffected in the same way ordinary researchers are. Much like his fellow long-standing Foundation scientist colleague Dr. Jack Bright.
What the fuck is up with that design for Bright? Oh my god. It's like Bunsen from the Muppets. Had a love child with Dr. Beaker. Okay.
This has rendered Clef largely indestructible and unharmable to a majority of anomalies, allowing him to continue his tenure at the Foundation for a considerable time. As a result of this natural immunity, it is often during this part of his day that Dr. Clef likes to pay visits to a former romantic flame, SCP-173.
At Zulily, get daily deals on top brands and everyday.
They're gonna go there. They're gonna go there. Give me one
Hydrate yourself, asshole.
Alright, give me 1 second. I'm turning on this ad blocker. This is actually really irritating. Alright, give me 1 sec. Add-ons. View block origin. Hmm. Okay. Allow. Alright, let's try this now. Let's see if this will actually work to block ads.
Capable of moving at impossible speeds when unobserved, Dr. Clef and SCP-173 have what you might call
Good point.
visits to a former romantic flame, SCP-173. Yes, the sculpture, the concrete and rebar anomaly capable of moving at impossible speeds when unobserved. Dr. Clef and SCP-173 have what you might call a, special bond, although the sculpture seems somewhat indifferent to him given that it cannot move. Clef, however, has been known to be infatuated with SCP-173, able to view it without being harmed. The unlikely couple have even, on a number of occasions, shared romantic evenings in each other's company. In the dining room of Site-19,
Okay, first of all, two things. Number one, this was one story. It was a shitpost of a story, and it was hilarious. Date night is freaking hilarious, okay? But there is one thing that was said here that I cannot freaking allow to stand. And that's the idea that Clef is immune to SCP-173's effect. I point this out that in the story, Date Night, Clef specifically got something like a dozen D classes to stand around in a circle and keep their eyes on 173 the whole time so that he could have his romantic dinner with SCP-173. Oh god, Light, you haven't read Date Night? This is a thing that I think we're going to have to show you at some point. There's a smut flick on AO3 of Date Night from 173's point of view.
to Barry White and enjoying an exquisite meal prepared by a D-class,
fuck
Clef
am I?
enjoyed the company of SCP-173, the sculpture wearing a black dress and a blonde wig. Every week, he looked forward to Friday, their date night. 7 p.m. Okay, let's see the damage today. Dr. Gears sighs. By this point
I
in the
like
day,
that design
one of the
for
last
Gears.
few orders of business on Dr. Clef's itinerary was always his daily, mandatory reprimand.
That's canon. That is canon.
Despite there being little punishments that the Foundation could issue Alto with for both his annoying and alarming actions, they would still regularly subject Clef to a list of his recent rule violations and casualties. At this time of 7 p.m., we've logged over 50 confirmed instances of personnel deaths on site. Dr. Gears reads aloud, rolling his eyes. Only 50? I must have had a slow day. Clef responds. That is, if you're sure your numbers are right. Clef, this game of yours doesn't get any less tiring. The other researcher tells him.
50 people a
If you've killed
day
anyone
is
else
freaking
today, please
slander.
just cut to the chase and tell me how many. And if you think that it's funny to keep stashing bodies all over the place, then 1, it's not, and 2, I need to know where those are too. Oh, and 3, just try for once for the sake of my sanity to tell the truth. Oh, Charlie, you're no fun. Dr. Clef replies with a chuckle.
Clef would never call Gears Charlie. Clef calls Gears Cog.
This is fun to you? Gears asks. This? Right here? Right now? Of course not. You know me better than that. Look, we both know the reason that the folks upstairs get you to sit me down, give me a scolding. It's all just a front. Just a way to stop any of those other little researchers getting any big ideas. The council can't bear the thought of anyone else trying to do as I do. There's only one Dr. Clef, and we both know there's nothing anyone in the Foundation can do to stop me having fun. My numbers are just too good. Speaking of your numbers, Gears ignores him. It says here you've received 420 complaints about the ukulele playing. You want to cut to the chase and tell me how many of these were filed by you as pranks? First off, nice. Second off, aw, Charlie, you do know me. 8 p.m. As very often happens around the time that most personnel have punched their cards for the day, Dr. Clef is approached by a trembling researcher, trying hard to hide the fear on their face. While starting as a more intermittent occurrence, encounters like this have become so frequent that they have since come to form a regular part of Clef's daily routine. I'm on to you, Clef, the researcher said nervously. They were the latest in a long line of Foundation staff to confront Dr. Clef about his supposed true nature. Given his violent and unpredictable behavior, there were rampant rumors that there was more to him than it first seemed. Come on then, kid, he says. I haven't got all night, let's hear what you think you've got. You were with the Global Occult Coalition before you defected to the Foundation, the researcher declared, summoning up more courage, even if it was a facade. You wrote their handbook on reality benders, but nobody in the world could have that much knowledge of anomalies like that, unless they were also one. Ooh, spooky, Dr. Clef taunts, inching closer with his ukulele in one hand. The Foundation literally let you get away with murder. Your face can't be photographed without changing the image into grinning animals. You're... Go on, you can do it. You're an anomaly, an SCP. You've broken out of containment, and you're warping reality to avoid detection. The researcher blurts out, adding, You're the devil! Oh, I'm disappointed.
Canon.
Clef chortles, finding this theory amusing.
Canon.
You almost stuck the landing. Why throw in something so unoriginal? Let me ask you, do you honestly think you're the first? The only one in the Foundation to, connect all the dots and figure out the truth behind Alto Clef? You aren't. If I was an anomaly, or the devil, aren't I being a little too obvious about it? With a clunk of a ukulele against the researcher's head, Clef gets one more decommissioning in before bedtime. Perhaps there is some truth to what he says. Maybe his power isn't just his immortality or combat prowess, or immunity to anomalies. It could be how he's been able to influence everyone's perception of him, even manipulating the O5 Council into thinking he's too big of a threat.
Just bonk.
His actions have made them believe that Dr. Clef is better kept on side as an asset than to roam free as
Two
a
Fs in
dangerous
Clef?
enemy to the
Really?
Foundation. That could be what he wants them to think, even if it's not true. After all, Alto Clef is a notorious liar. His entire persona could be the ultimate lie. 10 p.m. After another day of murder and mayhem, mostly of his own doing, Dr. Alto Clef returns to his quarters long after the working day is officially over. After disposing of the evidence of his latest decommissioning, he makes his way back to the room he started the day in and will start the next one in too. But if you think that Clef just gets into pajamas, hops in bed, and has a full 8 hours of sleep like a normal person, then you'd be way, way off. Firstly, on his way back to his room, Clef will once again have his ukulele with him, strumming sinisterly away at the strings so everyone knows as they try to sleep in their own quarters that he's still awake. What's worse is at this time of night, Alto intentionally mistunes his instrument, making it all the more egregious to hear, keeping the other researchers up until he finally makes it back to his own quarters. You might think he would have the sense to stop there, but he doesn't, still discordantly and tunelessly plucking at the strings, usually until someone dares to gather up the bravery to complain about the noise. All of it is to add fuel to the fire of his reputation, his image as an unhinged, unreasonable, and untrustworthy force. His behavior is also carefully curated and performed with the intention to make the rest of the Foundation believe there is something off about him. And why? Well, if they're so focused on the strange things they can see and hear Dr. Clef doing, it provides a smokescreen that covers up his true goals. All the dark and twisted things he is truly capable of.
Let's hear it.
And if killing anomalous
Let's hear it.
personnel is his cover, one can only imagine what might be worse than that. Much in the same vein, even him retreating to his quarters at the end of the day is
you could have cut you could have cut it there. You could have cut it there, and that would have been a nice way to end.
Is the devil, or a reality warping SCP, or perhaps he just enjoys messing with people, making them think he's going to sleep. Not one of them knows that he's actually laying in bed, eyes fixed open as wide as possible, with his face locked in that signature grin. Now go and check out Dr. Clef, SCP Foundation Researcher, and A Day in the Life of SCP-049 for more. There are many mysteries locked within the...
Okay. I kind of like that. Kind of like the ending of that. All right. Yeah, that was pretty much LOL Foundation entirely. Let's talk about a few things. Number one. Here's the thing, and this is going to be a clue for anyone who decides to write Clef. Clef is a troll. His entire persona is a troll. And his whole thing is everything he does is filtered through the lens of would this be really fucking funny if I did it or not? For instance, like Existential Terror pointed out, if somebody actually did go up to Dr. Clef and start threatening him and going like, oh man, I know who you are and what you are, Clef wouldn't hit that guy. He wouldn't kill the guy. There's no fun in that. He would find some way to drive that researcher to the edge of insanity and then pull him back. And the reason why he would pull him back from there, by the way, is that way, every time they see him in the lunchroom, they will have to remember that time that Dr. Clef made them think that, he was actually a sentient Black Forest cake for 2 months before revealing that's not the truth. And that's just even funnier. The second thing is, he's not invincible, If you take a look at a lot of the stories that I write with him, he tends to get his ass kicked a lot, He and, like, what was it? Clef and Dimitri hit the road. Yeah, they kind of got their ass kicked throughout that story, He gets his neck broken by freaking Kondraki. He ends up trying to decommission a whole bunch of crap and, nearly blows up a base on the moon. His whole thing is being a gigantic troll and honestly, in the end, kind of pathetic. If there's one thing that I will add to this, it's this. If you asked Dr. Clef which SCP researcher he would want to be, he would answer Agatha Wrights, because within the commonly held canon, Wrights is the only Foundation researcher to get out of the life successfully without ruining their life. And the difference between him and Wrights is he's never getting out of this, and he knows it. There is no way that he ever gets to get out of this life alive. I'm gonna admit something. That was not as horrible as I thought it would be. People had talked up this channel as being something really, really bad. It's not, I'll admit, it's not great. The writing needs a lot of tightening up, and there's some things that need improving, but honestly, I've seen worse. Before we move on to Monster Hunter World, I'm going to inflict this on Light. Alvarez. Oops. Hang on a minute. Let me fix something real fast. Let's see. Talk. The company and their practices is what's pretty bad, along with their exploitation of actual SCP authors. I don't know anything about that, but, we'll see. Okay. Date night. Let's check who wrote this one. By Hercules Rockefeller. Alvarez knocked on the open door and stepped into the office. You asked for me, sir? Dr. Gears looked up from the files on his desk, fixing his gaze on the young security guard. Yes, I've been trying to contact Dr. Clef all evening, but he's not answering his phone. I'd like you to locate him to make sure he's all right, and tell him I have something urgent to discuss with him. But sir, it's Friday night, Alvarez said, suddenly uncomfortable. If you'll recall... Oh yes, I see, it says yes, and he can't... He's left instructions that he's not to be disturbed under any circumstances. That's right, sir. Well, I suppose things can wait until tomorrow morning, then. Very well, sir. Alvarez left the office. Dr. Alto Clef sat in the dining room of his Site 19 suite. The place was lavish by any standards. Gold-embossed wallpaper, ornate oak paneling, 18th century furniture, the table set with priceless china and the finest silver. An antique Ming vase sat on a pedestal nearby, gleaming in the warm glow of the crystal chandelier. An original Caravaggio hung on one wall, a Vermeer on the other. Barry White played softly in the background. Clef explained, setting down his spoon and wiping his mouth with a napkin. The fennel soup was exquisite! D12130 really outdid himself tonight! He gestured to one of the several D-class personnel in attendance. More wine, D23897? Right away, Dr. Clef, the man in the orange jumpsuit said, nervously stepping up to the table and refilling his glass with a particularly crisp Chardonnay. Clef lifted the glass to his mouth, took a sip, and sighed with satisfaction. This is nice, he said, smiling at his guest. We should do this more often, don't you agree? Across the table, SCP-173 stared back at him, moving, unmoving, silent. 5 D-class personnel were positioned around the living statue, their eyes fixed on it, cold sweat dripping down their faces as they struggled not to blink, not to break eye contact, not even for a second. A 6th man stood directly next to 173, trembling with terror, as he lifted spoonfuls of fennel soup up to its face, smearing the contents where its mouth should have been. Now may I just say, how lovely you look tonight, darling, Clef said, his eyes moving appreciatively over the black evening dress covering the statue's curves, the blonde, lustrous hair of the wig on its head, its rouged stone cheeks. I was going to wait until later, but seeing you like this, I just... Look at me! You have me babbling like a schoolboy. I don't know what it is about you. You've always had that effect on me. SCP-173 looked on, its stone features blank and impassive. Anyway, I got you a little something to show you how much I appreciate you being here, sharing this evening with me. Clef reached into his pocket and took out a small flat box, handing it to D23897, who was standing nearby. The man took the box and went around to the other side of the table, his heart rising as he approached SCP-173. Open it, darling, Clef said. D23897 opened the box, revealing a gold necklace inlaid with dozens of small diamonds. It should be the right size. I had it made especially for you. Go ahead, put it on. Clef smiled. D23897 removed the necklace from the box and reluctantly tied it around 173's neck, wincing as his fingers brushed against the cold, hard cement surface. Clef was momentarily at a loss for words. Oh, it suits you to perfection, he said at last. God, you're beautiful. I feel like I never want to take my eyes off of you. And at that moment, Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe began to play. Clef felt his heart flutter. It's our song, he breathed. As Barry White's rumbling voice filled the air, Clef found himself staring into 173's alien painted-on eyes, losing himself in their depths. You know, he said, after a moment, his voice now a little more than a husky whisper. Suddenly not hungry anymore. What do you say we retire for the night? Clef was lying in his ample bed, 173 at his side, the lush satin sheets in disarray all around them. The D-class personnel were standing in a circle around the bed, 10 pairs of eyes that had not left the statue for the last 2 hours. Oh, I can't tell you how much these little trysts of ours mean to me, Clef was murmuring into 173's ear. Running Site 19, all that responsibility, all those lives depending on me, it gets so exhausting. You're a miracle worker, you know. You really... His train of thought was interrupted by a series of hushed whispers. 2 of the D-class personnel seemed to be having an argument. Clef cleared his throat loudly. Oh, do you mind? D23897 snapped to attention. I'm sorry, sir. It's D45931. He hasn't slept in a couple of days, and he was starting to nod off. I told him he had to keep his eyes open. Oh, I see. Well, that's not actually necessary. D23897 frowned, confused. But, sir, the statue... Oh, I won't deny she can be a feisty one, what with those fiesta states of hers. But as long as I'm around, she won't try anything. So there's no danger? D23897 asks. Oh, that's right, no need to worry. ... Now, if that's all, Clef said, I'd like to get back to... Then why are we here? D23897 nearly shouted in disbelief. Why did you make us stay? Clef gave the man a strange look, the hint of an unhinged smile playing on his features. I just like it when people watch. Thank you, Hercules Rockefeller. That was dreadful. In all of the best ways. Did he just make 10 people watch him bang a concrete statue? Yeah. Oh, desk, yeah, you missed it. Yeah, I'm thinking I might end up saving that. R.I.P. You know what? I'm gonna do something. Do 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 do. I am curious about one thing. I don't plan to watch the whole thing, but I just have to know.
The day-to-day routine of Dr. Gears consisted of a few concepts. 05 Council in support of his infinite money privileges. Junior researcher Summers attempted to use SCP-914 in a misguided attempt at self-improvement, placing not an object, but have to move fast. With a screeching grind of metal on metal, SCP-096 wrenched the door off its hinges and barreled into the room in its search for the person who
Okay,
had
here it
seen
is.
its face. It ran toward the silhouette of Dr. Bonita standing just at the entrance to the intake booth. She tucked and rolled out of the way just as the monster entered the booth. The door automatically slid shut behind it, and as SCP-096 rattled the door in trying to free itself, she turned the knob to very fast. Every ounce of strength
Okay.
and speed she had.
Okay.
There was a ding of a small bell.
Okay.
The machine whirred to life as the objects inside were refined.
No, I'm not getting away
Dr.
with
Bonita
ship in
had
a
no
bottle on
idea what
Twitch.
would be waiting for her in the output booth, but she could only hope that her last-ditch effort had managed to save her life. In the fog of panic, she briefly
The one I watched was A Day in the Life of
Alto
AltoClef.
What would become of a being like SCP-096 in a machine as strange and wonderful as SCP-914? What would the addition of the statue do to it? As the door to the outtake booth slid open, steam poured out. It appeared her questions would soon be answered. Cautiously, in spite of herself, Dr. Bonita called out, "Hello?" No one answered, but she heard the sound of footsteps, slow and careful, as a figure emerged from the mist. She covered her mouth in shock, her eyes wide. "Dear God," she whispered in awe. Standing in front of her with pale, smooth skin and the same imposing stature was the most beautiful man she had ever seen. Wide, dark eyes shone under thick, sculpted eyebrows. Under the eyes, an aquiline nose, full, pouty lips, a strong, sharp jawline.
This script does not work with this art style.
His head was topped with a tangle of lustrous dark curls. It was the kind of hair she had only seen flowing in the wind on the covers of the romance novels she wanted desperately to buy, but was too embarrassed to be seen purchasing. His physique was, well, statuesque, like the build of the very Michelangelo sculpture she had placed into the machine just moments ago. There was no other way to say it. He was handsome.
I'm done. I am done. I've seen enough. And now I'm gonna play some fucking Monster Hunter. I'm into it now. Oh, for fuck's sake, Darth. Uh, I'm not watch. If I'm gonna watch that whole thing, I'm gonna watch it from the fucking beginning. You're muted. I'm muted. I'm not
Drink
muted.
some fucking water already!
Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Okay, fucking, I'll drink some fucking water.
Hydrate yourself, asshole!
There's one. No one's gonna try any of the new ones? That didn't play? That's weird. Okay, there was just a delay. Probably from Monster Hunter.
Hey, asshole. Suck a bag of dicks.
Why did I put that in?
Hey, asshole. Suck a bag of dicks.
Why
Hey,
did I?
asshole. Suck a bag of dicks.
Why did I put that in here? Oh God, this is gonna be worse than the hydrating. I regret that I'm only allowed to put 5 of those sounds there under channel points. Yes, stroke isn't. I mean, not anymore. You've improved it. I don't remember what it was. Uh, okay. There's the story behind that is that years and years and years ago, Break asks me out of nowhere, "Hey, can you just say like stroke my ego really loud?" I don't remember the context. So I did, and then you turned it into that. All right, hang on 1 second. Oh, come on, controller. Don't do this. Fuck, is it out of... Is it not connecting? Come on. Alright, controller. Come on, connect. Frickin'. Alright. Good to see you, Emotional Entropy. Thanks for joining me today. Alright, there we go. Alright, hang on. There we go. Emotional entropy and existential terror backwards. Alright. Oh, hang on, let me fix my cursed, filter. Let's go with this one. I think I kind of like this one. Alright. Alright, continuing. So I found out that one of the things that I gotta do now is do some of the, Oh. I haven't played this in a little while. Alright, Steelworks. Something came in for me. Add-on content. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's accept everything. Alright, what am I gonna do? Let's go to the Gathering Hub. And I gotta do some more hub quests. Let's see. What am I gonna fight today? It's Puke. Let's accept this quest. How do I... Alright. And then we'll... pay with points. Order the bunny dango. Let's just do bird collar. Do I have poison reds? Blight recovery. Let's do dango rider. Order. Why did I eat a Switch cartridge? I don't know. Some people do that. Alright, there we go. Depart. Alright. Let's see. First of all, make sure I get my items. Item box. Manage items. Loadout. Hunt loadout. And where's my... There you are. Alright, where are my free supplies? Grab everything I can. Alright, let's go. Hand sanitizer? Who the fuck eats hand sanitizer? Oh. That's cool. Enough to have the taste embedded in my head. Sometimes you guys worry me. Alright. Puke time. Alright, let's go. Every morning I start the day with a nice, refreshing hand sanitizer. Oh, God. Alright, trap bug. And I guess I could spend a lot of time farming up speary bugs, or spear birds, or I can do just... Alright, where are you? Where are you? Ah, there you are, Puke. Alright, let's see if I remember what my instincts, how this game goes. Okay. Did you just... Oh, fuck, he just flew away. Mother. Okay. Alright, dog, let's go. Are we just forgetting the 8 uranium story arc? Wait, what? Drinking questionable things to get alcohol. Oh, I went the wrong way. That's fine. Fuck. I'm lost. Let's see. How do I get to this guy? Let's hook up this way. I think I'm going the right way. I'll just hook through 8, go to 6, then hook around. I could've... I was gonna go to class, but then I was high. Could have cheated or I could have passed, but then I got high. Well, now I'm taking it next semester, and I know why. Yeah, 'cause I got high. 'Cause I got high. 'Cause I got high. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. I was gonna make love to you, but I got high. I was gonna eat your ha-ha too, but then I got high. Da-da, now I'm sleeping on the couch, and I know why. 'Cause I got high. Oh, missed that. Ow. Alright. Ah! Missed it. Alright, cat, are you gonna give me a, Alright. Ah! Almost got the, almost got off the round cut. Okay. Come up to the, cut the tail. Okay, that's not great. I am out of practice. Alright, but I did get the round cut. Okay, so that's one. Second round cut. Alright, now he's gonna do some sort of tail bullshit. Alright, rolled cross. Break. Alright. Return. Okay, what's he doing? Okay. Poison spit. Let's get out of here. He's back in the corner, which is not bad. Alright, looks like I got a break on the tail. Good. Alright, let's go chase this guy. Which way is he going? The difference is I care about my cat. Food grade diatomaceous earth. Oh. Oh, wrong way. Oh, dead diatoms. Fit my friend 3 pencils and he was fine. You guys worry me. Alright. Okay. Alright. Alright, I'm about to lose the red. But... Oh, that wasn't Hellbreaker. Missed the shot. Oh boy, that was not great. Okay, let's see if I can get my aura back up. Oh, almost had the round cut. Go dog! Alright, roll out of the way. Pookie's doing his thing. Alright, he's back against the wall. Roll past. Ah! Almost had the round cut there. Yeah, knew it. He was gonna do the poison cut. Round cut. There we go. I'm up to yellow. All right. Did I get the tail cut? Yes. Will that affect its ability to use its tail moves? Not really. Yeah, look at that. Alright. Good move. Alright, I'm gonna get this. Alright, did not get the round cut on that one. Let's see if I can get up to red. Ah! He flew away. That was a pain. Alright, let's carve the tail. In his own image. I guess so. Oh, like actually, huh? Oh boy, fight, 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 fight. Okay, right wyvern. Strong attack. Mounted Punisher. Yeah! There we go. Oh, come on. You didn't connect with that? Oh! That's not... That was almost very bad. Alright, now that I'm on red, let's see if I can pull this. Missed it. Missed the Helmbreaker. Helmbreaker! There we go. I need to sharpen my sword. I'm an idiot. I haven't played this game in a little while. Let's sharpen. Dog, can you tank for me? Oh! That was not good. Alright, avoid the tail. Alright, oh boy, hang on. Wrong one. Pitfall trap. Okay, maybe not. Maybe instead... Alright, can I get to the... Let's go to here. Alright, good. Now let's go for Pitfall Trap. Oh god! Baroth! 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 Go away! Go away! Alright, can I ride you into the Pitfall Trap? Okay, ow! Come on, come on! There we go! There we go! And now... 2 trank bombs. There we go. Automod? Oh, allow. Put tape on his butthole? Okay, what did I miss? What did I miss in this conversation? Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute, guys. Light and Troy, you guys are in the Discord, right? I'm jumping into the on-air, voice chat, because I gotta hear this story. Normal worm stuff? Yeah, I'm jumping into the voice chat. I gotta hear this whole thing.
Is this working?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I'm on my laptop, so...
Okay.
No
Hang on a minute. Let me just... Let me, lower the volume of the game.
We can wait on...
We can wait on light. Alright, give me a sec.
Oh, sorry, Alfie. This is about the best I can do.
Oh.
Howdy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, Light.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Okay.
You know, mess with my audio. Anyway.
Alright, so... I have to ask, what is the full story behind this?
How far back do you want us to go?
Just give me the quick... Just give me a quick rundown.
I have a friend who thinks diatomaceous earth keeps him free of parasites. Light knows the chances of contracting a parasite in a first world country. Another friend of mine contracted parasites in a first world country by eating unmicrowaved ravioli.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Well, oh yeah.
Oh, please,
That's fair.
tell us about the biology here. Anything?
Yeah, okay. None of this is medical advice, obviously. I'm not a doctor. I just read stuff on the internet, and it's fine. I wouldn't. Like, it doesn't surprise me that you would, like, know a person in a first world country. Like, that squares off with it being pretty rare that you would, like, know a person who had gotten that, right? And I'd say cook your meat. You should definitely cook meat. If it was, like, frozen meat ravioli, like, I guess that stuff is not, necessarily cooked all the way through the first time.
Uh-huh.
So that, like...
Oh no, this was Chef Boyardee.
Ravioli from a can?
From a can?
Yeah. Canned ravioli.
What the fuck? Jesus!
Wait, so it survived the canning process?
That shouldn't... I guess eggs are resilient, but I didn't know they were that resilient. Like, you have to cook the bejesus out of something to get it in a can. Okay, huh.
I mean, this is his story. I'm going off of his experience.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
he claimed he saw small white worms in his feces after a bowel movement. Was deeply concerned. Went to the doctor.
Understandably.
Yeah. Went to the doctor. The doctor asked him about anything he had consumed recently, and the only thing that made sense as something that could have potentially have a foodborne parasite was canned Chef Boyardee ravioli. So this happened in like 2001. So I mean, it's 20 years of
God,
regulations between here and there.
Okay.
But and then Clef, he apparently had to put tape over his butthole.
Oh. to...
the message you read.
Okay.
Yeah, so, do you know any more about that?
I know that apparently that's how you detect pinworms in children, and I'm not sure if he had to do it because of this diagnosis, or if he had to do it as an aside to this diagnosis.
Like maybe if you've got this kind of worms, maybe you would also been exposed to this other sort of worm that, okay, that's
I'm not sure.
horrifying.
Yeah.
It feels to me like probably what it is they're like, okay, we don't know what these are, but we need to get a sample of these things so we can, like, send them off to a lab and figure out what's going on here. That's... I hope that's what they're doing there.
Oh, I guess pinworms are more widespread than I thought. That's interesting.
Huh.
Well, I mean, they're extremely widespread amongst children because content warning on Clef's stream.
Sorry, guys.
Children tend to not be as clean as adults and will scratch parts of themselves and then put their fingers in their mouths.
Huh.
Which is how pinworms propagate.
How does this work?
Pinworms will lay eggs at the exit of the colon.
Okay. At the bunghole.
Which will cause children to itch. Children will then scratch their butthole, and without thinking about it, will put their fingers back in their mouth.
Okay.
This is how they will propagate through somebody's system continually.
Right.
And it's why they are extremely widespread amongst children.
Kids are gross.
Well,
What are you...
Children don't have hygiene concepts in them like adults do.
Oh yeah.
Like they're not mentally developed enough.
Like I
So
said,
this
kids
is
are
how-
gross. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, like Light probably knows more about this than I do, but parasites on the whole are much more successful infecting children, not just because of undeveloped immune systems, but also because a lot of the things that we do to prevent parasitic infections, children do not automatically know to do.
Uh-huh. Like...
Well, I mean, hand washing.
Yeah. Not sticking weird
okay.
shit in your mouth.
Yeah, not eating sand. Not eating dirt.
Yeah, I guess the I mean, hand washing and stuff especially squares with things like I don't know, polio is also a disease that passes along the fecal oral route, if you will.
Yeah.
The bad one. They're all bad. The bad ones.
Author, am I still inviting Chowderhall through Twitch chat? Yeah. Okay, hang on one moment. Yeah. Wait, polio is caused by a parasite?
No, it's a virus. But
Oh, okay.
it also goes through the you get it from feces particles in places. So that's like one of those things that is used to be a problem for everyone, and now is like less so because of hygiene. In like where you would see that is through.
It's one of the reasons the CDC is extremely interested in what's happening in Mississippi right now with the water issues that are going on, and they have so many eyes currently on it. Not just polio, but just so many diseases that are prevented by effective water treatment plants.
I didn't know about this.
Huh.
Oh yeah, no. I was reading in not the Atlantic. It was an article that somebody linked on Reddit in one of the 5 billion subreddits that I'm apparently a member of.
Sure.
That was primarily focused on CDC efforts and where they currently are. And one of the ones that was being brought up regularly in the article was concerns over the Mississippi water treatment problems. Because
Gotcha.
well, I mean, the danger of the backwash of basically, sewage into the actual water table, that can fuck things up for a long time.
Yeah.
These guys are real hardy.
Yeah, that's basically a lot of modern, you know, health efforts revolves around keeping the poop out of our water.
It turns out that's real big. That's pretty
Yeah.
important to do.
It turns out if you get poop in water, a lot of people die in really, really horrible and disgusting ways.
Well, you know, it's like my grandma used to it's like my grandma used to say, poo-poo in toilet bowl, no individual care.
Mm-hmm.
Poo-poo in spaghetti, everyone upsetting.
Your grandma used to say this?
No. No, I lied. It wasn't my
Okay.
grandmother.
I was gonna say, this does sound a bit like something that a grandmother might say.
Actually, it was Haydn.
Haydn? Oh, how is he? When did he say that?
When he realized that saying it made me absolutely lose my shit every time he said it.
Oh fuck! I think I remember this.
Oh god.
This thing.
It was like a picture of the Joker, only it was the Jester. It's a very stupid meme, but
What's-
for some reason he sent it to me, and then he just said it in a really high-pitched voice. Poo-poo and toilet bowl, no individual care. And I just absolutely lost my shit.
It was that guy. It was from the Dark Knight, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay.
Oh god. Yeah, that's Haydn.
Well, thanks everybody for coming to Troy and Light's Parasite chat.
Yeah. We should do this more often.
This is
I'm full of parasite facts. Not parasites, parasite facts.
Tell me an interesting parasite fact.
Most large wild animals, and by large I mean like larger than like a mouse, you know, like pretty big, just not like, I don't know what they want tiny insects, but like a deer or whatever, full of parasites, constantly, all the time. They have so many. And that might not have been fun, but it is a fact.
Okay.
Actually, here's a question then. How many of those parasites will eventually form a symbiotic relationship with man? Any?
That's a good
question.
Yeah.
I think there a lot of them are, like, I think you're probably getting right that they're not doing like a lot of harm to like whatever like amount of like host resources they're scraping off isn't much. I would be surprised if any of them beyond maybe. Well, there is some weird stuff regarding like like it seems like the immune system is sort of designed to have like an amount of parasites in it
Huh.
as a baseline, to the degree that sometimes like no one do this at home. If don't eat parasites because someone on the internet said that they read an article about it. Don't do this. Just but there have been reports of people reducing asthma symptoms and things like that by intentionally inoculating themselves with hookworms.
That's crazy. Holy cow.
I wonder if it has something to do with like autoimmune diseases.
I think
Like-
it's not a
Yeah. Like it could be that what's going on is that the immune system doesn't have anything to do, so it just, you know, turns on the body instead of yeah.
I think that's basically the mechanism that seems to be going on there.
Yeah. So kind of like the United States military, you got to give it something to fight, otherwise it, you know, it starts, you know, I don't know. Insert political statement here.
What's interesting about that is it makes me wonder now how it would interact with allergies.
Yeah.
You could look. I think. Man, it's asthma or allergies. It might be both. Crap, I can't. You could look it up. I think there is like a research interplay there, and I suspect it is in the direction of like some small level, like a parasite burden can improve those in some circumstances.
That is weird. I don't recommend anyone actually do that because, you know, for the love of God, please don't.
Oh, you know what? Light, while you're here and just answering questions,
Yeah.
I am absolutely fucking terrified of prion diseases.
Oh, those things are wild. Yeah.
Is my fear justified, or do I need to relax? Because right now, I haven't touched venison in like 20 years.
Oh. Okay, you can probably relax.
Okay.
Yeah, they're super rare is the thing. They're so rare. It's one of those things where like, it's one of those things where I am like a little interested in like keeping an eye on what's the word? Yakukurt's fault, the human version, the
Kuru?
No, that's the human one.
Yeah.
Chronic wasting disease. That's it. That's the one.
Oh,
That
the bovine version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the deer version.
The deer version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I believe, as far as we know, like we don't know that it causes disease in humans, but they're all sort of variants of the same protein, so it kind of makes sense if it did. It's the kind of thing where I'm like interested in keeping an eye on it on a like
Intellectual level?
health scale level. Yeah, on an intellectual level, but I don't think I don't think I would stay like hardcore away from venison. If you were that worried, you could like keep an eye on like what the rates or what the like observations in your area are, or where where the deer came from, and use that as a baseline.
Well, I mean, I have been, and it's not great in this area.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, then maybe don't go around eating deer heart sashimi.
Just said two different things then in that case. I don't know. That's a great question. Yeah. I wish I could give you more specific advice, but I think I'd have to look at the numbers first.
I'm trying to think of others. See, now I literally just want to be able to sit down and be like, okay, Light, I'm going to ask you all these different weird biology facts, and I need you to give me answers immediately.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
defend your dissertation.
Things locked down.
Tell me fascinating things about oarfish.
They're so cool. They're so cool. Okay, so for those those tragically as of yet unacquainted with the oarfish, they're the world's biggest bony fish, which is a bony fish is like the kind of fish that most fish are. If you think of like a salmon or a goldfish,
Non-lampreys.
Yeah. Not lampreys and not like sharks, but like most fish. You think of a fish and you're like, okay, I imagine a fish in my mind. That's a bony fish. The longest one is the oarfish, which is 30 feet long, and it's sort of ribbon shaped. Just imagine a 30-foot long, beautiful ribbon. It's maybe a foot tall, maybe like 2 feet tall or something in front.
Okay.
30 feet long, and it's extremely majestic. And so
I feel I should admit that my only experience with oarfish is through the game on the Switch where I'm on an island.
Animal Crossing?
Animal House?
close.
Is this okay? I feel like I'm missing something here.
Yeah, that one. Animal House, I think that was it. Yeah, there was oarfish in it. God, people getting became acquainted with them through there. Yeah, they're great. They're super rare. Let's see, what are they? Oh man, a friend had a birthday party last year that was like, where the premise was, every attendee has like, can give like a 5-minute lecture on just whatever the hell they want.
Oh, that sounds great.
Of a topic of particular interest to them. Yes, and I think that if you know your audience, and my friend clearly did, it is a fantastic party concept. Mine was the oarfish, anyways. They're 30 feet long, and so the actual fact I had associated with, or the fact I had was that they're really rare. We don't see them that often because the ocean is, as you may know, scientists like to tell us the ocean is very large, and there just aren't that many of these fish. Yeah. And they sometimes will like wash up to deep water when or wash up into shallow water when it's like during for earthquakes and things. But those oarfish, so sometimes people see them like in shallow water, but that's pretty rare. Like they're probably the oarfish aren't in great shape when that's happening.
Where do they live? What portions of the ocean?
Middle. I think they're
Like-
vaguely tropical, but like a pretty wide distribution. I know they're around Japan, but I think they're like sort of like
Okay.
if you look something in
Japan was what I was listening for. Because, isn't there like a legend in Japan about like a giant carp that causes earthquakes?
Yeah. So
Wondering
I think that might be for that, but I think there's also a thing with large catfish in Japan doing that, and I
Uh-huh.
think a lot of animals just get weird about earthquakes, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was part of how that started.
Yeah. Okay.
If you like look up a picture of one of these things, people are often like, they're also like just super weird looking, like they're not like, they sort of look like giant snakes, or a lot of people think that like sea serpent legends came from them.
Okay.
Anyway, right. So you have this 30-foot long like ribbon-like fish, and they mostly live out in way deep water. There's a good fact here, which is that when we see them in the deep water, which people have not seen them very often, they seem to mostly hang out vertically, like just up and down.
It's, okay, just like standing straight up and down in the water.
Yeah. Like, you know how like a shark is like on its side mostly? No, they just go up and down. They're just,
Okay.
When they're just hanging out. It's very strange. I don't get it, but I do love it for them.
I mean, whatever works for you, I guess.
I guess. It's just an odd thing for a fish. Thank you for queuing that up. I love oarfish. They're so good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
So, there is a certain... Sorry.
Go ahead, Glenn. No, go ahead.
Yeah, there is a certain aquarium near where I live that has a moon jelly feeding tank, and that was fun.
Whoa.
So,
Do they just like put plankton in for them? And
yeah, they just give you like a bunch of little baby brine shrimp and tell you, hey, go feed these things. Yeah.
that sounds very cool.
If you're ever in the West Coast area, let me know.
Okay, nice.
Take you over there to...
I'm a bit of a jellyfish enthusiast, so I'm like surprised that do they do anything different when you feed them?
They kind of wrap around the cloud of things, and then the insides turn like
Oh.
pinkish.
Because of the eating,
Yeah.
one imagines. That's cool.
So, they also, I don't know, what's the best way to describe? It feels like, because you can actually touch the things. They're like you're
Oh, yeah.
dipping your. It's almost. Do you know what konyaku is?
I don't think so.
It's that weird. It's that kind of jelly-ish stuff that if
Oh, yes.
that they'll like serve with like
It
odeng.
sounds delicious.
Yeah. Kind of like that.
You do. Okay. Huh.
So
Huh, okay.
that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But yeah.
Are
Oh, nice. Very cool.
either of you familiar with a moon
Congratulations.
bow?
The what?
A moon bow.
No.
It's a
Moonbow
magic item in
is-
D&D.
Huh.
No, I mean yes, but no. It's a rainbow specifically at nighttime that happens.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
So basically, there's only a few places in the world where you can really observe them well. One of them is in East Tennessee at Cumberland Falls.
Okay.
And a couple of nights a year, things line up just right, where there's enough water going down and everything's going so that you get this really cool moonbow, which is honestly it's a silver rainbow.
Huh.
That's the best way I can describe it. Moonlight has a different look
Spectrum,
to it than
yeah.
daylight, and
Yeah.
it's just this really cool thing. So
That sounds very
I,
cool.
it is really cool, and that is one of two stories that I have about that location, and the other story is much more disturbing. So Cumberland Falls, that general area, the water runs deep, and you're mentioning catfish. Brought this back to mind. So there is a cove near Cumberland Falls called Dead Dog Cove.
Okay, good start.
It is called Dead Dog Cove because back in the 40s, a family was basically out having a day in the cove.
Uh-huh. And their dogs were fine.
Their dogs were completely fine. Nothing horrible happened.
Woohoo! Go on.
Huh.
Their dog was out swimming, and all of a sudden they looked up and they saw a catfish breach the water, and they saw their dog go under, and they never saw their dog come back up again.
River catfish, huh?
It is apparently the largest one that they've pulled out of that area, because to this day, Dead Dog Cove in East Tennessee holds one of the records. I don't know if it's the absolute biggest one, but I know that for a while it held the biggest record for the largest catfish ever pulled out of a river in the state of Tennessee, and it was over 70 pounds and about 6 feet long. So it was, and you have to remember, this is a catfish. They don't get long; they just sort of get bigger.
Yeah.
In general. So
Yeah.
this thing was monstrously big. Nowadays we have even bigger ones because of TVA.
Tennessee Valley Authority?
Yeah, because all of the plants are situated near the water. Even the coal burning plants that produce electricity are drawing in water and then using it to power their turbines and then dumping the water back out again.
Okay.
The point at
Great
which
for the
they
environment, no problems. This is joke. Go on.
The problem really is that particular area, just where the water gets dumped in, the temperature there during the wintertime stays up.
Oh!
So basically, there's this one huge area where the water never actually gets cold enough to cause any sort of decrease in
Metabolism.
plant growth underwater.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
where
fish can just eat all at once all year round.
Yeah, they can eat all they want all year round. So the general area where I grew up was a place called Kingston, Tennessee. Light might know about it if you've researched any of the major environmental disasters in the United States in the last 20 years. You might have heard of the coal ash spill in Kingston, Tennessee.
I think I vaguely heard about something like that.
I'm actually not sure I have,
Basically, one of the coal sludge dikes broke, and a huge area was coated in the stuff. So, if you like selenium,
Huh.
and I know you do, you can go check that place out. But that area in general was just completely nuked. That's where I grew up, and we used to go out fishing during the wintertime, and I would be bundled up tight, and you could just see the steam coming off the water the entire time.
Oh.
God.
Wow.
So, yeah, it is crazy. And it's a little bit nuts. The current one, the biggest catfish that's come out of the Tennessee River, I believe is about 110 pounds.
Gosh.
And it was a blue catfish.
Okay.
And it was caught near one of these TVA plants where it could just eat all it wanted all year round.
Huh.
Interesting.
And this has been my contribution to today's fish conversation. Clep, it's your turn.
Fish conversation? Or is that what we're doing right now?
Thanks for coming to Troy and Light's fish conversation.
You're welcome for gracing your stream.
Okay. The only thing that I've heard about fish, and pardon me for a moment, because I need to look up the details so that I don't
Sure.
accidentally, start spreading out around a bunch of misinformation. Okay.
Oh, just make it up if you have to. That makes for a better story.
Okay. My understanding is that there is a river. It's the Chicago River that has gotten a infestation of carp,
Oh yeah.
Asian carp.
Oh, you're talking
things
about
like-
the electric river.
Yeah, the electric river. So yeah, in
Oh,
order to
yes.
keep these
The
things
Electric River.
from getting into the Great Lakes, where they'll just wreck everything,
Oh.
but they can't close it off the river from the Great Lakes because that's where the
The water.
all the river traffic comes through. So
Okay.
what they ended up doing is creating an electrically charged gate. Like a
What?
stretch of the river is charged
Yep.
with high voltage electricity. And basically, if you are like in a boat moving through this area,
Yeah.
you need to have a pilot guide you through, and they are basically like, stay inside your boat because people have been electrocuted by this thing.
Oh, like don't stick your hands out over the side or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you will get zapped.
You will have a very bad day.
They,
I can only imagine. Oh my god. And like this must nuke every other living thing that comes through the river, but if you have to do that to keep the catfish out, you really have to do that to keep the catfish out, I bet.
Interesting
it's,
thing.
It's
Big-
actually, if I
Go on.
remember correctly, it's low enough
Yeah.
that while it'll hurt, and I think potentially if somebody were to go into it, the real concern is that it would make them drown because they wouldn't be able to swim properly.
Yeah, they'd have a
Oh,
seizure.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Some fish can still go through it just fine.
Yeah.
Oh. Just
The
carve off
interesting
and be
thing-
sensitive to it or something.
Yeah.
and-
Is that the bigger fish, like the big old Asian carp that they're worried about, feel the electricity
Mhm.
much quicker. But like the smaller ones,
Oh.
because they have a lot less energy to mass to build up, like, or feel the charge, can swim through just fine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but there is this whole thing is causing like a huge concern. Like one of the things is that if you've got two ships that are trying to pass through at the same time, all of the ships have to be grounded to each other so that you don't get an electric a difference in charge, because that's what causes an arc. Like if one boat builds up more charge than the other one, they come too close to each other, zap.
Huh.
Another big issue, fire. You know, these things
like-
spark. You know, fire on board a boat is kind of bad, if that makes
That's
sense.
pretty bad, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
But-
Oh, I'd never heard of this. Interesting.
Yeah. The kicker is that all of this effort is going in to keep these carp out of the Great Lakes, and everybody who is involved in this knows it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Eventually, enough of these things are gonna get through. Like the gates might go down due to a technical issue. Enough small fry might come through. Some asshole will forget to purge his boat's like bilge before going through, and it's gonna happen.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
once that happens, the entire Great Lakes ecosystem is kind of fucked. And so basically, they're using this electric gate to keep these fish out. And meanwhile, like every single like a whole bunch of ecologists are basically trying to figure out what the hell to do to get rid of these fish permanently.
Once this like eventually fails, which we know it's going to, because that's how all of these systems work. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the biggest problem. Carp taste like shit. they're a muddy sort of tough fish that nobody really wants to eat.
So
Yeah,
I guess this
okay.
is the point at which I get to tell you guys my stories about eating carp as a child.
Go
What do you
ahead.
think?
No, the carp that we used to catch in Tennessee, you just have to cut the mud stripe out of them and they taste fine.
Mud stripe?
Yeah, it's basically this line of brown through the meat that just tastes awful.
Okay.
Oh,
fair
yeah.
enough. Huh.
But if you cut that out, it's perfectly fine. I'm gonna sound super racist here. It was considered an African American fish.
Hmm.
In the area where I grew up, like people who were black were supposedly renowned for going out and catching and cooking and eating carp. To the point that it became a bit of a negative stereotype in the area.
Mm.
But it wasn't really a black fish, it was a poor people fish.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
But no, it was fairly common. But one thing that they are good
Interesting.
for is fertilizer.
Alfie
Hmm.
pointed that out. Yeah. Fish meal
Yeah.
is an excellent fertilizer.
Makes sense. It's a pretty common livestock feed too.
Yeah.
I imagine a carp might be less rich in it than some things, but yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, Alfie, the reason that it's hard to hunt to keep that population down is because catching those fish would decimate all other fish populations in the river.
Yeah.
Just, it's a pure, like, there are so many of those fish that you would basically have to drift net to catch all you could.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
at that point, you're kind of...
You're kind of
Oh,
fucking.
God, I feel like we took over Clef's stream, and now I feel bad.
No. No. This is awesome. You know. I invited you guys into this voice chat. Don't feel
I
bad.
appreciate that.
Yeah. No, one of my favorite things is listening to people who know stuff and love talking about stuff, talking about it. Like, I don't know,
Yeah, it's good.
I guess I could ask you about comb jellies, Light.
Oh, tell me about comb jellies.
I mean, they're the greatest.
Hang on. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of a comb jelly in my stream.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good.
Real
Okay.
quick, everyone, on the count of 3, name your favorite jellyfish. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Portuguese man of war.
Stygia Medusa gigantea. Solid choice.
God, I forgot its name. It's that no, that one's a squid. I'll just say moon jellies.
They're pretty good. It's hard
Yeah.
to go wrong with moon jelly.
Are Portuguese man of wars actually jellyfish, or are they like the ones that don't
Jellyfish
sting?
It's really weird. They do sting. They very much sting.
Yeah.
But
I thought
a lot of things that aren't in the sort of main jellyfish family also sting.
Hmm.
Are they? Wait, they actually might be in that area. What am I thinking of that's like a weird tunicate or something?
Hmm.
There's so many different squishy sea guys. It's a very popular early evolutionary strategy, I think, is to just make a squishy sea guy. Oh, they're in an area. Okay, yeah, never mind. Yeah, they're definitely in.
They're Nidarians. Okay.
Yeah, which are also like corals and stuff, but I think of like that as being the main one that had the jellyfish in them.
Yeah. Okay. So these are comb jellies.
Oh
They're
yeah.
freaking. I don't know how to describe these things aside from the fact that they look like a prop out of a 90s science fiction movie.
Yeah, like you look at them and you're like, oh, that's the thing that makes laser noises.
Yeah, this is very clearly okay. I don't want to pull up that whole thing,
They,
but
they
I
look
just
like
want
they're
to get
something out of Doctor Who. Like this is a species that survived the Time War somehow.
yeah. Just they've got LEDs. What can I say? They've got
Yeah.
RGB LEDs going.
They have
God.
these little rows of hairs that they sort of beat as like tiny fins to move them through the water, and that's the light refracting off of it is what the what you're seeing there is
Uh,
this like very cool rainbow effect. Yeah,
yeah, just
I think some of them do light up in themselves, but
Oh, Alfie, that is definitely a myth made up by Zeus.
a myth made up by Zeus.
Zeus.
Peeing on a jellyfish sting.
Oh,
So let's see. I was in the process of typing out. I know that vinegar works. I actually forget. I think vinegar even works better.
hmm.
Like they keep bottles of it around on like beaches in Australia where that's a really big thing. I forget if urine works at all or if it's like a 100% or like 75% effective to like 30% effective thing. In which case you still might want to try it or not. I actually don't know. So look that once you check the
So-
effects themselves.
I've been
Might
told
be
to not put vinegar or urine or I think meat tenderizer is the other one that
people.
I heard
Yeah.
It's good.
Well-
that you shouldn't do. I don't know for sure though. I'm pretty sure. Oh, Alfie Zeus in Greek mythology once appeared to somebody
As a golden shower.
rain.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm gonna turn off the sound on this one, but man, look at this thing. Oh, look at you, first time chat. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
let's get rid of you, my friend.
Great offer for you. Just kidding. Get fucked,
Ban
chatbot.
you. Yeah.
So the
A really great offer.
A wee wee quite offer.
so good.
God, look at this thing.
So the yeah. So if you think of like the tree of life and like you have like all the animals evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Starting place. You get like sponges is really early off. They're like, okay, we're just gonna stay in place and be sponges. And they're like, okay, you guys figured that out, sponges. And then there's like the sort of jellyfish that like also kind of branched off to include everything else, like the jellyfish, and then like the early worms grew out of the jellyfish, and then the fish, and then like the people eventually. But then like the ctenophores were sort of just the other ones from the jellyfish. You might think that's a jellyfish I'm looking at. Well, it's a squishy sea guy. I mean, you could call it jellyfish if you want, whatever. But like, there's the main jellyfish, and then there's these guys, which is the other way of the alternative jellyfish that is still around today. Yeah, they have things like in their neurons that they have like evolved alternatives to because like those. Yeah, no, I don't actually know that enough fact for counting.
Yeah.
Scratch that. But yeah, other branch of the tree of life.
Dang. And
Which is so cool. Yeah.
yeah. These
And
guys
if
are
you,
just
they're
Go on.
so gorgeous. Oh yeah, just if you live or happen to visit a coastal city, they're in basically every ocean, and you can just see them by like if you like go to a dock or something where you can like get right up to the water's edge. If you just hang off the edge, you can see these guys. They're usually not huge. I think the largest one I've ever seen was like 3 inches or something. They're normally like maybe less than an inch, but not a lot less than an inch. Yeah, so you just you might be able to go find some. Try it at home, kids.
Yeah, before my like knee started screwing up and ruining a lot of that, one of the things that we wanted to do was go stand-up paddleboarding at night, because there's
man,
a
good idea.
spot near no, somewhere on the west coast, where you know, they do tours of the harbor from stand-up paddleboards with like those bioluminescent squids and such.
Oh yeah. Oh, that sounds real cool.
And I think if they're not bioluminescent enough, that's why they've got chem lights, which they like hang off the edge of the paddleboards, just to get a
Oh, to like attract everyone.
just to attract the
Keep
critters.
you guys up.
Yeah.
Aw. That sounds
You know-
cool.
Sorry to completely diverge here. Light, have you ever read any Italio Calvino? He's an Italian author.
I don't think so. The name doesn't ring a bell.
I would like to highly recommend the book Cosma Comics.
Okay. Yeah, haven't heard
Um,
of it. I'll write it down.
COSMICOMICS. And you can find it translated. He in particular, there's one really good story in it that I think you'd get a kick out of called The Aquatic Uncle.
Okay. Strong
Calvino
title.
tended to Calvino tended to use science as the basis for telling a kind of story. So, for example, one of them is a sign in space. And in a sign in space, it's this idea about somebody who is really wanting to leave some sort of mark to show that they existed.
Okay. Yeah.
So the fact that the galaxy is revolving, he puts down a mark, and it's his mark, and then the galaxy rotates, and when it comes back around, he says, "This isn't my mark. This isn't the mark that I left," and it's digging into all these weird postmodern concepts. The Aquatic Uncle is basically taking place at this point in time when uh, some things that have lived in the ocean have left to go and live on the land, and then they still have this one uncle who lives in the sea and refuses to come ashore. In short,
sounds
though, like
cute.
it's actually very sweet, and it has kind of a cute ending where the guy doesn't get the girl, and it's great, and it's Calvino. He's a wacky guy, but like I highly recommend that. If you want to, toss me your address, and I'll send it to you for Christmas.
Oh,
Uh,
maybe not on stream.
Not
yeah,
on
I mean, no,
screen, but I
Light's not
appreciate it.
gonna like send me an address on.
Yeah.
Don't be weird, Clef. Don't be weird.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes you forget that that you're on stream or yeah. Anyway.
That's fair. Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Well,
Oh yeah, no.
I don't know what I
Break
had
is
planned for tonight's stream, but I feel like it turned into something better than what I had thought it was going to be going in.
Oh man, yeah. Thanks for letting us come talk about fish and parasites and stuff.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for coming on and
All-
talking about fish and
Clef, I'm
parasites.
concerned that all it took to approve
Anytime.
your stream was parasites.
I mean, I don't know what to say, man.
So you're concerned that what?
To derail my
Oh,
stream was parasites.
Ah.
Yeah. You know what? It's getting a little late,
Happens.
but you know what I'm thinking right now? I'm thinking rather than going back to playing more Monster Hunter, I think I'm gonna have to wrap up the stream relatively soon. But before I
Yeah.
do,
Oh.
I'd like to do let's see, something that I don't think I've done before, which is to see let me do, oh, I got it. We are approaching the Christmas season and the darkest time of winter, and I would like to end tonight's stream by reading off one of my favorite little poems. It's a ghost story, and it's by a poet whom I've always been a bit of a fan of, Robert W. Service. This is the cremation of Sam McGee. Light, uh, Troy, thank you both for coming on before I start this off.
Thanks for having me. Later,
Thank
Glove.
you.
That's
All
now.
right. So, yeah, we should do this again sometime. Just take some time to just sit around and chat about stupid things. I've kind of missed this. I say stupid, but it's cool. I just love hearing about things that you guys care about. Anyway, The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. Get some water. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. And the northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge when I cremated Sam McGee. Now, Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the South to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homey way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Oh, talk of your cold! Through the parka's fold it stabbed like a driven nail. And if our eyes we'd closed, then the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me and, "Cap," says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request." Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with a sort of moan, "It's the cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet 'tain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that, foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains." Well, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on at the trek of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. Well, there wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate these last remains." Oh, now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart, oh, how I cursed that load. In the long, long night by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows, oh God, how I loathed the thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavier and heavier grow, and on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. Oh, the trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. Well, I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it and I thought a bit and I looked at my frozen chum. Then, "Here," said I with a sudden cry, "is my crematorium." So some planks I tore from the cabin floor and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around and I heaped the fuel higher. And the flames just soared and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I buried a hole in the glowing coal and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so, and the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why, and this gracy smoke in a inky cloak went a-streaking through the sky. Well, I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with my grisly fear. But the stars came out and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, "I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked." It's time I looked. Then the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, "Please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm." There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge, when I cremated Sam McGee. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining my stream. I think I got something in my eye. There we go. Peace.